The Pacific Northwest, known for its breathtaking beauty, harbors a dark side. In the late 1960s, a shadow fell over the region. A string of disappearances shattered the peace. Young women full of life vanished without a trace. Fear spread like wildfire as communities grappled with the unknown. The tranquility of the Pacific Northwest was forever scarred. A predator lurked in the shadows, preying on the innocent. The investigation would soon uncover a horrifying truth. A man named Jerry Brudos, leading a seemingly normal life, harbored a dark secret. His obsession with women's shoes masked a sinister desire. Brudos, the man who would become known as the Shoe Fetish Slayer, had a horrifying appetite for control, violence, and death. Jerry Brudos' entry into the world was marked by an undercurrent of dysfunction. From the very beginning, his life was overshadowed by a sense of unease and discord that permeated his family environment. Born on January 31, 1939 in South Dakota, Jerry's arrival coincided with a period of economic hardship and societal change. The Great Depression had left its mark, and families like the Brudos were struggling to find their footing. He became the youngest son in a family grappling with its own demons. His parents, already burdened with the responsibilities of raising multiple children, found it difficult to provide the nurturing environment that young Jerry so desperately needed. His arrival, far from being met with unbridled joy, was tainted by his mother's unfulfilled yearning for a daughter. This disappointment was not a fleeting emotion but a persistent undercurrent that influenced her interactions with Jerry. This seemingly insignificant detail would cast a long shadow over Brudos' formative years, shaping his self-perception and emotional development in profound ways. The lack of maternal affection created a void that would haunt him throughout his life. Planting the seeds of resentment and inadequacy, his mother's constant reminders of her disappointment made Jerry feel like he was never enough. This emotional neglect and rejection became the foundation upon which his troubled psyche was built. Life in the Brudos household was far from idyllic. The family dinners, often a time for bonding in many households, were instead filled with tension and unspoken grievances. The atmosphere was thick with unaddressed issues and simmering resentments. The young Jerry found himself trapped in a toxic environment where affection was scarce and emotional abuse was commonplace. His home, which should have been a sanctuary, felt more like a battleground where he was constantly under siege. His mother, harboring her own unresolved issues, often made him the target of her frustrations. Her anger and disappointment were frequently directed at Jerry, who bore the brunt of her emotional turmoil. Belittled and berated, Brudos retreated further into himself. Each harsh word and scornful glance pushed him deeper into isolation, creating a chasm between him and the rest of the world. His spirit slowly being crushed under the weight of her disdain. The constant emotional battering left him feeling worthless and defeated, setting the stage for the dark path he would eventually follow. The seeds of darkness had been sown, and they would grow into something far more sinister in the years to come. Around the age of 5, a disturbing pattern began to emerge in Brudos' behavior. What began as an innocent fascination with women's shoes, particularly high heels, gradually morphed into something far more sinister. He wasn't simply drawn to their aesthetic appeal. There was a deeper, more unsettling element to his obsession. The shoes represented power, control, and a disturbing sense of dominance over women. Despite the darkness that festered within, Jerry Brudos managed to construct a convincing facade of normalcy. On the surface, he appeared to be a typical young man navigating the complexities of adulthood. He secured a job as an electrician, a seemingly respectable profession that further solidified his image as a productive member of society. To the outside world, he was just another face in the crowd, blending seamlessly into the fabric of everyday life. While Brudos meticulously maintained his public persona, a much darker reality festered within the confines of his own home. Behind closed doors, his carefully constructed facade of normalcy crumbled, revealing the true extent of his depravity. His house, a symbol of domesticity to the outside world, became a prison for his darkest secrets, a place where he could indulge in his twisted desires without fear of discovery. It was a stark contrast to the image he so desperately tried to project, a testament to the duality of his existence. Despite his best efforts, Brudos's carefully constructed facade could not contain the darkness that raged within forever. Cracks began to appear in his mask of normalcy, offering fleeting glimpses into the depraved mind that lay hidden beneath the surface. These cracks, though often subtle and easily dismissed, hinted at the monster that lurked within, a monster that would soon unleash its fury upon the world. The year was 1968, a year marked by significant cultural shifts and historical events. It was a time of both hope and turmoil. The world was changing rapidly, and the Pacific Northwest was no exception. The Pacific Northwest was in the throes of winter, a season that cloaked the region in a chilling mist, blurring the line between beauty and menace. The dense fog rolled through the forest, creating an eerie atmosphere that seemed to whisper secrets of the unknown. The rural roads, often deserted, added to the sense of isolation and foreboding that hung in the air. It was during this time of year, when shadows grew long and the air held a palpable sense of unease, that Jerry Brudos crossed the line from disturbing fantasies to horrifying reality. The long winter nights provided the perfect cover for his sinister activities, as the darkness seemed to embolden his malevolent desires. The community, unaware of the lurking danger, went about their daily lives, oblivious to the predator in their midst. His first victim, a vibrant young woman named Linda Slauson, would become forever etched in the annals of true crime, a tragic reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. Linda's story is one of innocence shattered by unimaginable evil, a stark contrast to the bright future she had envisioned for herself. Linda, a 19-year-old encyclopedia saleswoman, was full of life, ambition, and dreams for the future. She was known for her bright smile and friendly demeanor, traits that made her well-suited for her job. As she went door to door, she brought a sense of hope and knowledge to the families she visited, never suspecting that her path would cross with someone as malevolent as Jerry Brudos. Her tragic fate serves as a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictable nature of human encounters. What happened next within the confines of Brudos's garage would forever remain a matter of speculation and the chilling confessions of a depraved mind. Linda Slauson, full of life just moments before, was now trapped in a nightmare, her desperate pleas for mercy swallowed by the walls of her prison. Brudos, his face contorted in a mask of rage and perverse pleasure, unleashed the full extent of his dark desires upon his helpless victim. Months passed since Linda Slauson's disappearance. The days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, with no sign of Linda. Her family was left in a state of perpetual anguish, their lives overshadowed by the uncertainty of her fate. The investigation into her whereabouts had gone cold, leaving her family and friends clinging to fading hope. They organized vigils, held on to memories, and prayed for a miracle that never seemed to come. The search parties combed through forests and fields, but each effort ended in heartbreak and frustration. Meanwhile, Jerry Brudos continued to live his double life, his outward facade of normalcy a cruel mockery of the darkness that festered within. By day, he was the unassuming neighbor, the man next door who blended seamlessly into the suburban landscape, but by night his true nature emerged, a predator lurking in the shadows, driven by a sinister compulsion. But the monster within, having tasted blood, yearned for more. The thrill of his first kill had awakened a dark hunger that could not be sated. He meticulously planned his next move, each step calculated to avoid detection, each action a testament to his growing confidence and depravity. It wasn't long before Brudos claimed another victim, his brutality escalating with chilling efficiency. The police were left scrambling, their resources stretched thin as they tried to piece together the fragments of his heinous acts. Each new crime scene painted a grim picture of a man who was becoming increasingly bold and ruthless. Jan Whitney, a 23-year-old woman with a bright future ahead of her, crossed paths with Brudos in the most mundane of settings, a crowded shopping mall. She was vibrant, full of life, and had dreams that extended far beyond the confines of her small town. But in that moment, fate dealt her a cruel hand, leading her into the path of a man whose intentions were anything but innocent. Her disappearance would soon add another tragic chapter to the story of a community gripped by fear and sorrow. Back in the confines of his home, Brudos's dark fantasies intertwined with the horrifying reality of his crimes. He dressed Jan's lifeless body in various outfits, posing her in macabre displays, her vacant eyes staring into the abyss. He photographed his victim from every angle, capturing her image in a series of chilling Polaroids, preserving her likeness as a grotesque trophy of his depravity. As the body count rose, so too did the pressure on law enforcement to catch the perpetrator of these heinous crimes. The disappearances of Linda Slauson and Jan Whitney had sent shockwaves through the community, leaving residents living in fear and investigators grappling for answers. The case had grown cold, the trail seemingly gone dead, but a glimmer of hope emerged from an unexpected source: a survivor. Armed with a growing body of circumstantial evidence and a search warrant for Brudos's property, investigators descended upon his quiet suburban home. The house, once a symbol of normalcy, was about to reveal its dark secrets, its carefully manicured lawn and cheerful facade a stark contrast to the horrors that lay within. Section 3. Unmasking the monster, the weight of proof. Faced with the undeniable evidence of his crimes, Jerry Brudos's carefully constructed facade finally crumbled. He was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder, his reign of terror brought to an abrupt end. The news of his arrest sent shockwaves through the community, a mixture of relief and disbelief washing over those who had known him, or thought they had. The spring of 1969 brought with it a sense of dread for Jerry Brudos. The disappearances of several young women in the area had sparked a massive manhunt, and investigators were closing in. Brudos, despite his best efforts to maintain his carefully constructed facade, knew that his time was running out. The trial of Jerry Brudos began in the spring of 1970, casting a long shadow over the community that had once considered him a seemingly ordinary neighbor. The courtroom was packed, the atmosphere thick with tension as the prosecution laid out the chilling details of Brudos's crimes, their words painting a vivid picture of a man consumed by darkness, his actions fueled by a toxic mix of obsession and depravity. The steel doors of the Oregon State Penitentiary slammed shut behind Jerry Brudos, signaling the end of his reign of terror, but the beginning of a life confined within the cold, unforgiving walls of the prison system. Sentenced to life behind bars for his horrific crimes, Brudos became the subject of morbid fascination, his name synonymous with depravity and the dark side of human desire. Jerry Brudos's reign of terror may have ended within the cold, sterile confines of a prison cell, but the scars he left on the world remained. The families of his victims, forever haunted by the loss of their loved ones, grappled with the unimaginable pain of his crimes. Their daughters, sisters, and friends were more than just names on a police report. They were vibrant lives cut tragically short, their futures stolen by a monster who preyed on their innocence.